Hello and welcome to another player preview for the 2024-2025 season for the New York Knicks. Today we have Jericho Sims. Excited to get into Jericho Sims. Should be some good conversation about Jericho Sims. And yeah, once again, I appreciate every single one of you joining us for these player previews. We're doing a player preview for every single Knick. So one Knick equals one video. Appreciate you guys giving us your time. If you haven't done so already, smash the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and let's get to it. Chris, Jericho Sims. Jericho Sims,
man.
Yeah.
He's going to have the spotlight on him, in my opinion, simply because, what everybody's been talking about lately as far as the Knicks depth goes. Who is going to be that backup big for the New York Knicks? Could it be Jericho Sims, huh? Could it be? I think so. A lot of rumblings around the Knicks organization has been that they like Jericho Sims, right? He's not going anywhere, or at least doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And look, at times he's been serviceable for us, right? Been a solid big off the bench when we needed him. And that's all you can ask for, really, in my opinion, from Jericho Sims. But what are your thoughts on Jericho Sims? You think he's going to have a bigger role this season?
I do. It's like a part of me says yes, and then a part of me says no. I think the Knicks will address it via the trade or if they go somewhere else. But like you said, I feel like there's been a lot of rumblings within the Knicks organization that they have a feeling that this is going to be a good year for Jericho Sims. I think you brought up something on our previous episodes that this was the first time Jericho Sims has been healthy, kind of. Not the first time, but, he's been healthy this year. Last year, he wasn't really healthy during the offseason. So, what was he dealing with? A shoulder surgery?
Yeah. Yeah, he had some shoulder issues, and basically he could not have a proper training camp for the past season or two. So, reports out there are saying that, hey, Jericho Sims is healthy. He's out there working on his game and looking to make a splash on this Knicks roster.
And I'm excited for Sims. And we all know Jericho Sims to be that high flyer and, the quiet, humble guy that's at the end of the bench and really has no facial expressions.
Yeah.
I could relate because sometimes I feel like that. But look, Jericho is going into his fourth season. He's 25. He'll be 26 in October. And, he's really been like that. I hate to keep saying this, like that break glass in case of emergency type of center player for the Knicks. And they've had to use him, last season they had to use him because simply Mitchell Robinson got hurt. And they've had to use him, quite a bit. One thing that I think is underrated about Jericho is his one-on-one defense in terms of guarding. He's quicker on his feet, because he's like this bouncy 6'11", 7-foot center. So he's quick on his feet in terms of defensively. His one-on-one defense is actually, I think, is pretty underrated. That's just my opinion. I don't know how about you feel about that, Chris. But yeah, I mean, usually by year 3, you kind of already know what you got in a player. But I feel like since we're seeing a lot of workout videos for Jericho Sims, he was seen working out with Mike Bibby. And I feel like the hype train is kind of going towards the side of, Knicks fans, actually being pretty excited to watch Jericho Sims this season because right now, I think he would be that backup center. I don't know. Something tells me that this is going to be a good year for Jericho, Chris, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be the backup big for us, considering the Knicks re-signed Precious. Precious is back into the fold. I feel like the Knicks kind of like what Precious brings. But again, we don't know the Randall situation, and could it be a scenario where you actually have Sims and Precious out on the floor together? So, that could also be a scenario. But going back to what you said about Sims, on the defensive end,
Yeah.
I think he is underrated. He's obviously he's young, doesn't have the experience, that an NBA vet would have. But so he gets beat a lot, but especially by the taller bigs or guys like Jokic, as you'd expect, right?
Hmm.
You know, he's quick to bite on pump fakes and little fakes in the post, things like that. You know, I think Jericho Sims just makes up for, you know, kind of the lack of poise with his crazy athleticism around the rim. So, you know, you catch him with a pump fake, this dude can, you know, land and jump up and still probably get the block. And he has a high motor, and I've never seen somebody, you know, jump as high as Jericho Sims does, catch it, ooh, bring it down, and then just have no reaction whatsoever to what he did. So I love that about Jericho Sims. I don't know if I don't know if he's gonna have a big role to start, you know,
Yeah.
or down the line, because I have a feeling, you know, Precious brought into the fold. We also got Huck Porty, you know, which you know, I personally like, and I think we might see some of him down the line. But I think, unfortunately, like you mentioned, I think Jericho Sims becomes that break glass type of player. You know, still, even though there seems to be, you know, an opportunity there for him to kind of, you know, prove that he can fill that slot for us.
There is an opportunity because right now, as it stands, we don't really know the situation regarding Mitchell Robinson in terms of his health to start training camp. Precious and Tom Thibodeau loves to use a traditional big out there. I know Jericho is kind of like that 4 to 5 ish, but defensively, I think like we said, I think he's a little underrated. Like rebounding, he's okay at it. It's just, you know, whether or not the New York Knicks, do we think the New York Knicks have faith and trust in him in year 4? Because I mean, it is year 4, Chris. You know, and you know what we've seen from Jericho is kind of, you know, I really hope that there's more in there. And I truly do, you know, hope that, you know, last season, because he was like hurt during the summertime, that he really, you know, couldn't really train and he couldn't, you know, what he normally would do during the summertime. But yeah, I remember a few times this year, Jericho caught Kessler. I think he caught Kessler with a few dunks this year. And it's funny because, you know, Kessler has been rumored to come to the New York Knicks. But, you know, he's always been, in terms of efficient around the rim, Jericho has always been efficient around the rim, 99 percentile at his position. Always it has been a good finisher at the rim. Last season, 77% at the rim, 88 percentile at his position. And it's just a matter of trust. It's just a matter of, do you feel like the New York Knicks trust him to have a good year? And I feel like the talk around, you know, Knicks Nation and, you know, around the fans, they kind of are behind Jericho. They kind of want him to have this good year for the New York Knicks. And I'm kind of like starting to hop on that train. Look, there's been rumors lately about the New York Knicks maybe bringing in Robert Williams from Portland, but you know, that's a conversation for another day. That's probably a whole new podcast. Do you really want to bring in another injury riddled center like that? To me, that that doesn't make sense. But
That's
um,
like that's essentially Mitch all over again, right? But like you
yeah,
said, that's for another time.
yeah. So it's like, look, the Knicks are gonna mix and match with Jericho and Precious, and maybe Hug Porty comes at the training camp and just shows out and really gets the playbook in order, gains the trust of Tom Thibodeau, and you know, Tom Thibodeau. That's another thing. Tom Thibodeau, he likes Precious too. You know, once you have the trust in Thibs, you know, once you're in that circle, you know, it's that means you're doing something right on the court. And Precious has shown us at times this year when he has, you know, had to step up due to injuries. Not Precious, Jericho, that he does a, you know, okay job. I'm not saying that he's a great player, but in this scenario, in our situation, I think Jericho is fit to have an okay start to the season, and then we just go from there.
No, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty well said. And look, I think it's just gonna be, you know, I think it's gonna be situational. You know,
Yep.
and I think Tibbs and the coaching staff they know the spots they'll probably want to throw Jericho Sims into a game versus, you know, Precious per se. I think that, you know, Jericho has some untapped potential there. I mean, we're seeing the workout videos now, right? He's taking jump shots. He's working on his three ball, which would be insane. But on the flip side, do you really see Jericho Sims being allowed to take a jump shot? I mean, we all love the workout videos, right? But how many times have we seen Mitchell Robinson posting videos of him shooting threes and dribbling and taking 3 steps from the 3-point line and dunking the ball? You know, I mean, it's nice, and I like the fact that Jericho is working on his craft, obviously trying to become a shooter, which would be great. Um, but what are your opinions on that? Do you think we're gonna see Jericho posting up bigs and shooting fadeaway jumpers?
I love to watch Jericho post his videos. I love to watch any Knick player post these videos, but the reality is I don't, because remember when Isaiah Hartenstein came in, he was known to be that stretch five, and then the Knicks tried it out for a little bit, and they kind of went away from it, and they used Hartenstein to more of like that passing big role, and it worked out. And when Hartenstein would attempt those threes, he would make them occasionally, but I hope. I mean, I don't know, because he could take the leap like Deuce McBride took this past season. I mean, would I be surprised? I would be. Would you call this kind of like a do or die for Jericho, or do you do or die season for Jericho, or do you feel like even if the Knicks were to acquire another big, it's good to have that extra insurance in Jericho, and he's always been there.
Yeah,
He's
I
always been
think
there.
I think with Jericho, normally in his scenario, I would say it's kind of a do or die type of season. Show us something more than the status quo, right? But
Yeah.
with Jericho, I feel like he's just a long term type of project, and definitely one that's more than 4 years, in my opinion. When the Knicks got Jericho, he was a raw prospect. They basically knew they were going to have to work on him and build him up, right? So them having faith in him and believing in him, I think tells it all, in my opinion. Where I don't feel like it's a do or die season for Jericho. He's not commanding a ton of money,
Yeah.
and that fits in honestly with the entirety of this team at this moment. We got JB taking pay cuts, and all these guys basically getting paid. Some guys are still due to get paid, and guys are currently getting paid. So I think Jericho, just as a big body that knows the system, knows what he has to do, and still has the potential to grow as a player. I think he just fits, especially when it comes to his contract.
Yeah, I do too. The Knicks picked up his $2 million club option this year. Next year, he will be an unrestricted free agent. Like we said earlier, Jericho Sims is 26 years old. 1% takes up 1% of the cap, and he's honestly just that insurance, like that like right. I mean, right now we don't know if the Knicks are have a plan in place. Maybe he could be the backup for Mitch, or they just could go to a Precious Hart lineup and just mix and match. And remember, Tom Thibodeau didn't really like playing Julius Randle at the center position either,
Yeah.
so he really shied away from that. So you're talking about somebody else needs to come off the bench, and especially if Mitchell Robinson is not healthy, you're going to need Jericho Sims to play.
And if I remember correctly, initially, when Mitch went down, before iHeart even took over the starting role, it was Jericho Sims who Tom Thibodeau threw out there, in place of Mitch, and still had iHeart coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't last too long, but yeah, that goes to show you just the trust they have in Sims. So, you know, who's the, I'm here saying that I don't think Jericho Sims is going to have a big role, but on the flip side, I could be completely wrong on that. Pretty damn quickly.
Yeah, and exactly. And last season, in terms of lineups, there was a lineup where Jericho Sims excelled in. That lineup was Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Precious Achua, and Jericho Sims playing at the 5. That lineup played 115 possessions together, plus 20 differential. That's 87 percentile, 125.2 points per possession. Offensive rebounding rate was pretty good at 50%. Yeah, so that lineup, That's Jericho Sims playing the traditional five alongside Precious. So you could see a lot of that, Jericho and Precious coming in off the bench with Hart, Dante, and somebody else mixed in that Kolek, Brunson, whoever, and that lineup it worked well for the New York Knicks. So yeah, I mean, I feel like this is going to be I truly do think that we're gonna be surprised by Jericho this season. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling a nice year from Jericho. You know,
Hey, I think I think he's going to be good. Look, he's healthy. If he wasn't healthy the past 2 seasons, I think we'd get a little bit more from him. I'm not going to go too crazy and say he's
yeah.
going to have some ridiculous season. Um, but I do think he's going to have his opportunity out there, and hopefully he shows us the bag. I want to see a turnaround jumper that he's been showing us on social media. Just one.
Yeah, and if he turns around and clanks it, he's getting yanked.
Yeah.
But let me
Hey
ask
man,
you.
if
Let
he
me
hits it,
yeah. Let me
might
ask you
get the
this.
green light.
So the Knicks are a championship contending team, right? So can they afford to put their trust in Jericho in such a critical season when they have high aspirations and they want to obviously take down Boston and go to the NBA Finals and ultimately lift that trophy up and bring a championship since 1973. Can you afford to put your trust in Jericho? Can you just have that blind faith and hope that he can take a little bit of a step forward? Or maybe they're just like, we'll place Jericho in that role now and then we'll see what happens come trading deadline.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think early on in the season, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think you can have Jericho Sims out there, fill that role. Again, the Knicks have so much firepower, in my opinion, not only offensively but defensively, that it shouldn't hurt us that bad, right?
Yeah.
And I sound like a broken record, but towards the end of the season, when things are starting to heat up, playoff time, I feel like, don't get me wrong, Sims can be out there on spot minutes if needed, but you really want to have that veteran presence out there that's been there, has that type of experience,
Yeah.
and you know what you're going to get from them, you know, at that point in time. That's where I think it's risky to have a Jericho Sims out there. Can he surprise us and excel, in clutch moments or in the heat of a playoff battle? Probably. But I'd feel a lot better having a more, veteran presence there. Somebody who's been there, done that, won't get flustered by the moment, and, has what it has shown in the past that they have what it takes to play meaningful minutes come playoff time.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see when training camp comes, which is pretty soon, and it's around the corner. Also, Jericho changed his number from 45 to number 20, so we're going to see a new number for Jericho Sims out there. Last worn by Dylan Windler. It's funny. Every time I think about 20, I think about Allen Houston.
Hey man, he's going back to his college roots. He wore 20 at Texas, so
Ooh.
hey, that all bodes well for Jericho Sims, right? He's gonna go back to the old days, and who knows? He might show up and just show off and earn himself a role on this Knicks squad outside of the break glass player.
New number, new Sims. I don't know. Bold prediction. Bold prediction. Jericho, 30% from three. Pulling it.
That's a hell of a bold
He's going to
prediction.
be pulling it.
I'll tell you what, bold prediction: Jericho Sims will take a turnaround jumper
He's,
in the
I think
preseason.
he's taking a, he'll take,
In
yeah,
the preseason.
that'll be funny. That'll be funny. But yeah, that was fun. Jericho, hopefully, he has a good season and we'll just have to wait and see how the Knicks utilize him and, how the coaching staff views him. That's another player preview in the books. Appreciate every single one of you tuned in. If you want to catch all of our player previews, not all of them, but our latest one is right here in the middle. So, yeah, appreciate every single one of you Once again, I'm Anthony from Knicks Nation.
I'm Chris.
We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.